ask Kyle. He said he wasn't
Yeah,
they did.
they did.
I
Yeah.
let him know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I usually just walk in.
Yeah. I did that one year. They actually let me in. Because somebody from Forever didn't.
No,
I was surprised they actually let me in.
No, I walk in and I actually get to go inside the ropes.
Nice.
Well, I'm there every day.
Well, you're
that's
just
why.
going to say you're there. They should know it by now. Of course, State High should know who the heck I am by now. And a lot of times, you have a ticket, sir?
Well, don't they know who we are? That's one of the problems. They do.
I never play that card, but there were many times when I used to cover State High basketball.
Dick and I make a joke out of that all the time. Don't they know who we are? And one of us.
Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Welcome, joined by somebody who got a free T-shirt from Ryan Day. What are you doing? What's wrong with it? I mean, the NCAA Wrestling Championships this week. Are you going to wear that shirt?
Oh, no. Tomorrow I'll have the wrestling shirt.
Yeah, for which team? Oh, now we're throwing stuff around. Oh, he's trashing the place.
Mouse falls down, mic's on. I'll tell you.
Oh, God. All right, so we'll start with two stories. One is Ed DeChellis is retiring after 14 seasons at Navy. As I texted Ed this morning, I texted him. I said, you are a true credit to the profession, but you're an even better friend. And he and Kim deserve and have earned a nice retirement. And I hope he can enjoy himself. I mean, Eddie's a really good coach. He's a really good coach. He's an even better guy. And I'm thrilled for him. And Indiana made its move, and this time the athletic department made the move and not the board of trustees. It's Darian DeVries, who long time assistant at Creighton. I mean, he worked for both Dana Altman and for Greg McDermott. And head coach at Drake, 6 years, then left and had spent the 1 year at West Virginia and now takes the Indiana job. He's got a great record, great track record, getting to the NCAA tournament. And so he takes over Indiana. In all likelihood, when the transfer portal opens next week, and it will open on Monday, and it runs from Monday to April 22nd in basketball. Expect Tucker DeVries, his son, to then transfer to Indiana. How good is he? Well, he was the two-time Missouri Valley Conference Player of the Year. You're saying, well, what did he do at West Virginia this year? He only played 8 games. He had an upper body injury. He missed the vast majority of the season. But he's a quality player that will go to Indiana with his dad. But they're also going to have turnover in roster because Malik Reneau, for example, is going to put his name into the transfer portal. He's indicated he's going into the portal. Now, DeVries will have a chance to sit down and talk with him if he wants him. But it looks like Malik Reneau is going to go into the transfer portal. A lot of people at Iowa thought they were going to get DeVries. And they thought by getting DeVries, it would keep Owen Freeman from transferring. Well, he's not going to go to Iowa. Now, the question, can they get Holcomb, the current coach at Drake? That's another name that's going to come up. So that's one big one off the boards. And we'll see what he can do with the job. They move quickly. I mean, as soon as West Virginia was out of the NCAA tournament mix, they moved right in. And West Virginia is not going to postseason play anyway. I don't think they're going to the Crown, are they?
I don't think so.
No. I think Villanova's going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should they have gone is the question. They're going to need a coach.
Yeah. As I said on yesterday's show, I think it was one of the few people that picked North Carolina to win. I said they were going to win by double. I thought they were going to win by 15 points.
I think they're hungry at the moment, obviously, and I think they're just better than San Diego State.
That's the key. Everybody's hungry.
Yeah.
Okay. What?
Yeah.
You don't think Liberty's not hungry?
Of course they are.
Right? You don't think Creighton's not hungry?
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt. Everybody in the tournament is. Okay. When you're told you don't belong there, though, that's the extra. Hey, you know what?
Yeah, but once you start playing, you play.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. That is it, and there was not enough time between finding out Sunday night, going through travel problems on Monday, to sit there and get that motivation in practice, which is actually where it happens. All right, when the game starts, it's not I'm hungry. They told us we shouldn't be here. No, like a lot of that's like the motivation in practice, paying attention to detail. My issue with San Diego State is that they're Houston light. In other words, really good defensive team, but not quite as good as Houston. Not a great offensive team, not as good as Houston. And that was the issue I had with San Diego State. So Kyle says we have to pick a bracket, huh?
Uh-huh.
All right. So I noticed that you've got Southern Illinois in the national championship.
Crayola crayons all ready to go here.
I know you got Southern Illinois Edwardsville in the national championship game.
That's right.
It's quite the trip you have there.
Yeah. Well,
He walks in today. He looks at the pen.
Hey, it's
and he says, "Well, it's a mailman pen."
Like, it does look like a mailman. I'll tell you. I got to zoom in and show the. Well, you know what? Show the folks here.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Yeah. You didn't think maybe it was the police?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, for goodness sakes, they've tracked you all over town. I figure you got to know what they look like by now. All right, yeah, so
it is the state.
We will start.
They're helping me out here. They're helping me out for once.
Just remember, the police escort is in front of your vehicle, not in back. A message from this station and the ad council. All right, so we start in the South. All right, Auburn, Alabama State.
Yeah.
Okay. You have Alabama State, right?
Oh, you bet. After that hot thriller last night.
So we've got Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They will face the winner of Louisville Creighton.
Wow. I'll tell you what. Man, and Louisville's going to be a tough matchup for Auburn if they can make it.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is, can they make it? Because I think Creighton may win that game.
Okay, so you put Creighton.
I'm going to go Creighton there.
I'm going Louisville. A lot of people are picking San Diego to beat Michigan. I am not.
No, I'm going to go Michigan there.
I think the issue is going to now Michigan can shoot itself out of the game. Let's understand that part.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But if they play it smart, which to their credit against Wisconsin, they didn't. That set the game back. It was unbelievable watching that game. I'm like, does anybody see what we're seeing here? But because of Golden in particular, Wolf to a point, I'm not as big on Wolf as some people are. All right? I'm just not. But because of Golden and Wolf, they have enough inside that UC San Diego can't handle it. I go with them. This is going to be a terrific game.
Yeah.
Texas A&M and Yale.
I'm going upset there.
You're going to go Yale.
Yale wins that game.
Okay. As you know, I'm a huge fan of Buzz Williams. James Jones is a terrific coach at Yale. And if they did have Danny Wolf, I would pick but they don't have him any longer. I am going to go with Texas A&M to win. Okay. Ole Miss, North Carolina.
Oh, boy. I'll tell you. It always feels like those teams in the first four get into the next round. It just seems like it's going to happen. Ole Miss has played a tough schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they have.
Oh, man. That is a tough one. I'll tell you what. I'm going to go UNC. I'm going to give them a round.
Nope, I picked North Carolina as well. Iowa State, Lipscomb.
I got Iowa State there.
Okay. Marquette, New Mexico.
That's going to be a good game, too. It's going to be another one.
Really good game.
Yeah. I'm going to go Marquette there.
I'm going to go with Richard Pitino and take New Mexico. I'm not big on the WAC conference. I'm not, but I'll take New Mexico. I'll take Michigan State to play them.
Yeah.
They're going to play Bryant, and I say that with all due respect to Jimmy Martelli's brother. Florida, Norfolk State.
Yeah, that's an easy one.
Okay, so
I think
we'll put you down for Norfolk State.
True. I think Florida's got the depth to make a run.
Oh, okay. UConn and Oklahoma.
UConn has been streaky this year, but I'm not going to go against Dan Hurley in round two. I got to go with UConn there.
Okay. Memphis and Colorado State, our old friend. Scott Sidwell's the athletic director of Colorado State now.
Tell you what, I'm going to go Colorado State in that game.
Okay, I'm going to take Memphis. I think they're actually really good.
I do too.
Well, evidently, now you don't think they're that good. You pick Colorado State. All right. Grand Canyon against Maryland.
Yeah, Maryland there.
All right. I'll take Maryland. Missouri against Drake.
Drake is a very good team.
Drake, what's interesting about them are all the Division II players he has on the team.
Yeah.
And they're not Division II any longer. They've played 33 games.
Right.
Hey, so, it's like saying X is a freshman. Well, after 33 games, are you really a freshman?
No. Nope.
Now, you're a freshman in this situation because you've never played in the NCAA tournament. So you are in that regard. But it's like you're no longer really a freshman in terms of experience. Missouri.
I'm going to go Missouri there.
And Drake, I'm going to take the dreaded Drake.
Going Drake, all right.
Excuse me. Texas Tech against Wilmington.
I'm going to go Texas Tech there.
Yeah. Okay. Kansas against Arkansas.
Tell you what, John Calipari in round one. I feel like I may have to go Arkansas here.
I'm going to go with Arkansas as well because I have zero trust in Kansas.
Yeah, so do I this year.
None.
Which is unbelievable because Bill Self is usually in this spot. It is.
They've been like this, Jason, for 2 years.
You're right.
They've been like this for 2 years now. This is not an aberration. This is a 2-year trend. DeJuan Harris can be good.
Yeah.
But he's really up and down.
Yeah.
Dickerson topped out years ago. And then St. John's against Omaha. And Omaha's really good, by the way, but St. John's is the pick.
Yeah.
Duke. I don't care who they're playing. Next.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, now we've got a really interesting one. Mississippi State and Baylor.
Oof. My first instinct was Baylor. They always tell you go with your first instinct. So therefore I'm going to go Mississippi State.
All right. So I'm going to take Mississippi State there.
Yeah, I'm going to go Mississippi State.
Okay. A lot of people are picking Liberty to beat Oregon.
I'm not one.
And I'm not either. I'm taking Oregon to win that one. Richie McKay, the coach at Liberty, has done a great job. Yeah. My first time I ever ran into Richie McKay was a little bit more than 20 years ago when he was the head coach at New Mexico and Penn State played in the Lobo Classic. So, I chalked him a little bit. Great guy. Now, when you get hired at Liberty, they do tell you a couple of things. One, You're not allowed to swear on the in a game or on the practice court. Okay? So that eliminated half the field right away. You're also not allowed to have an adult beverage in public. That eliminated the other half of the field.
I was literally going to say that.
Like, okay. Arizona, Akron.
I'm going to go Arizona.
Well, I tell you about Akron for a second. First of all, this is John Gross, okay? And I'm the former head coach at Illinois, and Akron is a team that is, to its credit, used to winning, okay? And they lost one conference game all season. They were the last team in the country to lose a conference game. They've won 7 in a row. 7 in a row. And they're really good. Now, the Miami of Ohio win, they were down double digits, came back and won. And a lot of people think they're a Cinderella candidate. They're playing Arizona. And the question's going to be, you don't want to have fun. You picked Arizona.
That's right.
Yeah. So for fun, I'm going to pick Akron.
All right.
Okay. BYU, VCU.
That's going to be a good
Contrast of styles.
It is. I'm going to go VCU there.
I am going to go with BYU.
Yeah, I was tempted to take BYU. I really was. That was a tough one.
Wisconsin, Montana.
I'll go Wisconsin there.
Okay, I'll take Wisconsin as well. St. Mary's against Vanderbilt.
Ooh.
America's most boring team that sets the game back decades. I mean, they play as if they're like they play as if like the key is shaped like a key.
I've picked against St. Mary's in round 1 about 5 times, and they've come back to haunt me.
All right.
So I'm going to go St. Mary's.
Okay, I'm taking Vanderbilt. I'm sorry, I'm just not a big St. Mary's guy. I've never been a big St. Mary's guy. Never have. Their style, look, it is very, very difficult. And I say this from experience of watching so many games over the years. It is very difficult to speed a team up. Okay? It is easy for teams like St. Mary's to always play the game at their pace.
Yeah.
I mean, always. Gonzaga kept trying to speed it up against them, couldn't. San Francisco hit enough shots. That's why in the regular season they beat them. They were the one team to beat them in the regular season in the West Coast Conference. But I'm going to go with Vanderbilt, and then I have got them playing Alabama.
Playing Alabama as well.
Houston, you've got Southern Illinois, I notice. You've got them in the Final Four.
Oh, you bet.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go Houston there.
Okay. Gonzaga, Georgia.
Ooh. Well, we'll go Zags in round 1.
Okay, so you're going to go with Gonzaga. So Clemson, McNeese State. Will Wade. You're going to go against Will Wade. The popular pick. Everybody last year picking them lost by 30. Clemson is the pick. Purdue, High Point. Another one people are saying, watch out for High Point.
Not me. I'm going Purdue.
I'm going to take Purdue to take that one. Illinois against Texas or Xavier.
I'm going to go... Oh, man, this is where the first 4 gives back to bite you. Because I feel like if it's Texas, Texas wins that game.
Okay.
I'm going to go Texas.
Texas to win over Illinois. All right.
Xavier wins. We might have a different conversation, but that's all right. We're going to stand by Texas. We'll take Texas.
All right. I have to give credit to Illinois. I don't like their team at all. Yakashonis I like. The rest of them?
Yeah.
I mean, Will Riley to a point.
Riley's not bad, yep.
The rest of them?
Yep.
And I just think that no. I will take Texas. It's just not big on Illinois.
No.
Kentucky, Troy.
I'm going to go Kentucky there.
Okay. UCLA, Utah State. A lot of people think this has upset written all over it.
Oh, boy. UCLA has been so streaky this year. You know what? I'm going to go upset there. I'm going to go Utah State.
Oh, well done. I'm taking UCLA. All right, so, and then Tennessee against Wofford.
There you go, Tennessee there.
So now we get to the next round. Now you have Auburn against Louisville.
Creighton.
You have Creighton. Okay, who do you have moving on?
Auburn.
Auburn. I'll take Auburn as well. Okay, I have Michigan, Texas A&M. You have Michigan against Yale.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I wanted to take Michigan out early. I really did. I'm going to go Michigan.
I've got A&M moving past them. You know, North Carolina.
Same way. I don't think Michigan goes very far.
North Carolina, Iowa State.
I'll go Iowa State there.
Okay, let's get something that's very important here. Gilbert, the best player for Iowa State, is out. Okay, I'm going North Carolina.
I think UNC has a chance.
I think that they can get to the Sweet 16. I'm not saying they're advancing past this part, but this plays into their favor. Okay?
Tell you what, I'm actually going to go UNC in that game also.
What, a little inside baseball info?
You helped me out.
You know what? I mean, look,
I'm going to go.
Fatigue makes cowards of us all.
That's right. I actually think UNC is just different right now. I just feel like
I don't think they're different. But I think Davis in the backcourt and there's no Gilbert there.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah.
See, that's the Iowa State problem.
Yeah. I'm going to go UNC there. I don't think they get past the next round, but I'm going to go UNC one more round.
Okay. And I've got Michigan State moving in opposite them. You've got, Marquette? I've got New Mexico.
Yes.
Okay. Florida, and who did you pick? UConn?
UConn, yeah.
The reign is over.
I agree.
Gone.
Yep.
Memphis against Maryland.
See, there's where I should have taken Memphis because I think Memphis beats Maryland easily. I took Colorado State, so I will move
Maryland to the next round.
I'll have to. Yep.
I've got Memphis.
Yep. I actually think Memphis has a chance to go there.
Okay. The Drake. That's what I've got. You got Missouri.
Yep.
Against Texas Tech.
Gonna go Texas Tech there.
I'll go Texas Tech, but you know what? I'll be honest with you. I'm not really big on Texas Tech.
I'm not either.
I mean, every time I watch them, God, they miss a lot of shots.
They do.
Oof, man. St. John's against, and we'll do this in a way that you understand, Arkansas.
St. John's beats Arkansas.
Okay.
I'm high on St. John's. I think they're a good team.
Duke.
Yeah.
Or I've got Oregon against Akron. You've got Oregon against Arizona.
Yep, I'm going to go. Oh, boy. Tell you what, I'm going to advance Arizona there. Yeah, Arizona.
There you go.
Now.
Okay, I've got Oregon because I had Akron winning. BYU against Wisconsin.
I am going to go. I have VCU there. I am going to go. Wisconsin's streaky too. There's these teams. I'm going to go. I'm going to advance VCU.
Okay. I'll advance Wisconsin to play Alabama.
Alabama, yeah.
Houston, I advance.
Yep.
And I advance Clemson in beating Purdue. I advance Kentucky.
Advance Kentucky as well, yeah.
To play Tennessee. And what will be an SEC bloodbath. So now we got an SEC Sweet 16, Auburn, Texas A&M. Who do you have?
I have Auburn, Michigan.
Oh, well.
I really don't know. I I do not see Michigan going to the Sweet 16. I see it because of what I picked in round 2.
Okay. All right.
Michigan is going to go down early. I just can sense it.
And you got Michigan State, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Who do you have?
I've got Michigan State advancing there.
Okay. Florida, I assume.
Yes.
Okay. You got St. John's, Texas Tech.
I'm going to go St. John's there.
Yeah. Duke against, I don't know who you're hodgepodge. I have no idea.
Arizona, I think, but I got Duke going.
Duke. Okay. Alabama, Wisconsin.
I'm going to go Alabama there.
Houston against Clemson.
Oh, man. Oh. This is the year it feels like chalk could happen, but this is also the year it feels like a 1 seed can go down in the Sweet 16. I am going to go Houston.
All right. I've got Houston over Clemson. And then Tennessee, Kentucky.
Tennessee.
Ooh, boy, you're rather definitive about that.
Tennessee's just, again, they can beat anybody, and again, it just feels like, and then there's another day they can go out in round 1.
Auburn and Michigan State. I assume you got Michigan State there, right?
No. Going to go Auburn to the Final Four.
Okay. I assume you had them playing Michigan State.
Yes,
what I
yeah.
meant. Okay. Florida, St. John's. I am going to go St. John's.
I'll tell you what, I feel like there's a chance they do it too. I'm gonna go St. John's as well there. Florida's a team I think can cut the nets down if they can use their depth to their advantage, but I'm gonna go St. John's.
Now we get to the Final Four.
Yep. Duke beats Alabama.
Yes, Duke beats Alabama. You've got Tennessee over Houston.
Houston beats Tennessee.
Oh, Houston beating Tennessee? Okay. So you got Auburn against St. John's on your...
Yep.
And you will go with?
You know what? We're going to go Auburn.
I'm taking St. John's.
All right.
Duke against Tennessee.
I'll go Duke and Tennessee. I'm going to go Duke.
Okay, I'll go Duke. And then your national champion is? All right. There you go. I'll take Duke. There you go. It's all filled up. All right, great.
All right.
All right, we did exactly what management wanted.
We did.
We ate up a whole chunk of the show doing
And we
it.
got the State College Police Department gave me a hand here. How about it?
You thought it was the mail service.
I did think it was a postal worker. It looked like
What
it.
are you doing? God.
It almost looks like, see, if you had those Flintstones figures as a kid, Fred Flintstone had that same hat. So it looks a lot like it was the. See, it should have a badge somewhere.
Fred Flintstone worked at Slate Quarry.
He did, but there was a Flintstone where he was dressed as a postal worker too, and then back in the day when he had little Flintstone figures. I still think you ought to just have a mini badge somewhere on the pen. Then I'd clearly know. Any way to defend my logic of being an idiot and thinking it was a postal worker?
Wow. Whew. I don't know. You're a scary guy. All right. We have been told by really good sources, and really good sources, that Aaron Rodgers invited you to experience the dark room.
I'll tell you. And he got really mad when I told him if he were to sign with the Steelers, he would never be the most famous Rodgers in Pittsburgh.
Wow. I actually saw Mr. Rogers throw out a pitch in that Pirates game.
I actually met Mr. Rogers not long before he passed away.
Yeah, everybody,
Great man.
Everybody says terrific, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Great man.
And when he threw the pitch, I felt awful for him. He throws the first pitch out, and it goes straight down into the mound. And he's like, oh, and he covers his face. It's like, it's Mr. Rogers, for God's sakes. Yeah. So everybody cheered. I mean, it's like, hey, come on, it's Mr. Rogers. Right? Okay. Did you see what the Chicago Sun-Times did?
I did not.
No. Well, I mean, this should be a story you're ultimately familiar with. They fired a lot of people. What?
They're not alone, unfortunately.
What they did was, look, we all know newspapers are struggling.
Absolutely.
They offered buyouts to 20% of their staff, and they went with some of the more high-profile people on their staff. Among those who are getting buyouts and exiting include Rick Tellender and Rick Morrissey.
I was going to say Morrissey was probably going to be one of
the two of their columnists.
Yeah.
Mark Potash, who is the Bears beat reporter, and Daryl Von Schoen, the White Sox beat reporter. 38 years with the paper, Von Schoen, and he's out. Annie Constable covers women's sports. She's out as well. I had talked to, when Dick Girardi retired from the Daily News, I'd said to him, I said, you know, Dick, I got to give you a lot of credit. I said, because timing means everything in life. It means everything in life. It means everything in love. It means everything in loss. I mean, timing means everything. Right? And that's one of those, you know, words that you know what I'm talking about. You just can't see it. It's just timing. And I said, your timing was you got into sports writing and into a place like the Daily News at a time when newspapers were hot and you were in a multiple paper town like the Sun-Times is with the Tribune in Chicago. The Bulletin had already exited, so there were more eyes on the Daily News and on the Inquirer. I said, and they gave you the freedom to cover horse racing. They gave, you know, they're the ones that opened the door for you to say, hey, why don't you start covering some college basketball for us? Okay. Right? Which then, of course, dovetail into doing radio, which then dovetail into doing the Daily News TV show. And Dick still does horse racing shows to this day, which then in turn dovetailed into him now 21 going on 22 seasons on the Penn State Sports Network with me. And I said, then you retired. And you retired at just the right time. Because so when you got in, newspapers were hot and ascending. Right? And then all of a sudden it crested and started to fall. I said, and, you know, with the internet, people were able to keep certain things alive. It's interesting because the Sun-Times made the decision to stop going behind a paywall, right? I mean, one of the few papers major papers that doesn't go behind a paywall. But they couldn't get enough advertising to back it up. That's why they felt they had to make these moves. And to the credit of the Sun-Times, they wrote long articles. Like, they were very transparent about what they were doing, why they were doing it, the whole thing. They wrote on their editorial page what they were doing. I mean, there was no mystery about, you know, why they were doing it and how bad they felt about it. And I said, Dick, then you retired from it. I said, got a pension out of it. And I said, and the timing's just right. Because newspapers are struggling.
Big time.
Friday night, Kyle, Dick, and I had dinner with Joe Giuliano, who had covered Villanova basketball and Penn State football for years with the Inquirer. Well, now he's living out in Madison. You know, and he was able to get same thing, a pension and so forth. You know, his wife has family in Madison. That's why they moved there. You know, but you can tell he misses it.
Sure.
You know, and talking to Joe, and Joe Giuliano's one of the really great guy.
Yeah.
You know, he'd be the kind of guy you want to just sit down and have a couple of beverages with and just talk to. He's just such a good dude. All right. But the times have changed so dramatically. And with the writing part of it, newspapers in particular. And I'm somebody, I hate that trend because I always have enjoyed personally, and again, maybe it's an age thing. Now, I'm sure this is age related. You know, when I grew up, I like having a newspaper in front of me and reading
Absolutely.
a newspaper.
Yeah.
Right? When I'd go on vacation, I'd pick up the Boston Globe, I'd pick up the Cape Cod Times, I'd pick up USA Today, I'd pick up the New York Times. I'd be sitting there, I'd spend about an hour and a half, while everybody's asleep.
Sure.
Right? Reading papers. The Sunday Boston Globe, my goodness. The Sunday Boston Globe was a gold mine of information because they would do a notes column. And Sean McDonough's dad was the first to do this, the full page notes, and that's how he ended up. He ended up on NBC as their insider. And Will McDonough was the author of it's a full page of NFL, right? Well, then they got Bob May to do it for basketball, and they got Pierre Dupont to do it for hockey. Now he's with the Athletic now. Right? And then it was Peter Gammons on baseball. So you'd be sitting there on Sunday, right? And it's not a pamphlet. It's a full newspaper. Take time. Let's read all the football notes. Full page of it. No ads. Let's go and get some baseball info. Boy, by the time you were done with that Sunday paper, you felt like you were connected to everything, not just with the Bruins, the Celtics, the Red Sox, and the Patriots. You felt like you were connected to the NHL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, and the NFL because the notes were about everything
Absolutely.
in each of those leagues. Well, I think the Globe still does that, but you don't get that in newspapers anymore. They're not allowed to do it. There's only X amount of space to do it. There's a lot of AP stories, right? And I realize that you can go online to find this stuff. I understand that. I do understand that.
Sure.
And do I go online? Sure. I mean, I'm a subscriber to The Athletic, right? And I think that it's important to have a subscription to something like that. Because to me, if The Athletic fails, long-term sports writing's done. Because Sports Illustrated is a shell of itself. Yeah. You don't have, Sporting News is online.
Yeah, but it's not what it used to be either.
It's
same thing.
Not what it used to be. Again, I would every week.
Same here.
Right? Sporting News would show up. Right? So I was...
In terms of detailed writing, I have always felt like the Sporting News was number one. Obviously, SI covered the events like nobody, but detailed writing and definitely Sporting News.
Absolutely. And I remember my first job. I was 10, and my dad had a sheet metal fabrication shop. My brother owns it today. And the first job I had was I had to clean the shop on Saturdays. Okay. So that meant everything from sweeping up to putting things away to, yes, cleaning the bathrooms. Right. And I was 10 years old. I got a whopping 35 cents an hour. Then I did so well, I got a raise to 50 cents an hour.
Nice.
Well, I thought I was. So I saved my money up. And you know what I bought with it? 1 year subscription to the Sporting News.
There you go.
It's the first thing I did with my money. All right? And I remember Chris Spire was on the cover of the first one, the shortstop for the Giants.
Yep.
All right? And and so I would wait for that every week. And my favorite issue every year was the bowl preview issue. They broke down every bowl game. And I was like, this is great. I read it and absorb it. When I did this show the first time, starting in the 80s, in 1983, right, that was the sporting news was such an important part of my preparation for shows. All right, and that was, but today, no, it's you can't do it anymore. Everything has changed.
Yeah, big time.
Look, and I understand that. I mean, people are absorbed with their phones.
Yeah.
And I've got that. That's where people get their information. That's why when people talk about Instagram, Twitter, X, TikTok, that's where especially young people go to get their news and information. They don't go to newspapers, and everything's instantaneous these days. So do I need to read about the splashdown of the astronauts in the Gulf of America in the paper? No, I watched it yesterday. Well, I watched it on video later. I was playing golf when they were splashing down in the Gulf of America. But I mean, I did. Yeah, I watched it. No need to read about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's obviously me growing up. Yeah, I grew up in a small town, and Rich Scarcell is not going to like to hear this because when I was a kid, that dates us back to how long he's been covering the Nittany Lions. But when I was a kid, the Sunday Reading Eagle absolutely was where I got a lot of my information for Penn State football growing up. There was no internet. There wasn't anything. I watched the games, obviously, on Saturday, and Sunday I'd read Rich's recap, and I'd check everything else in the Reading Eagle.
Well, that's what I told my class. I was telling them that back in the day, I said there would be 2 games a year on TV for Penn State. So the game story, especially if it's a road game. I mean, if it's a home game, I was going, right? But if they're on the road and it's not televised, your sources were Fran Fisher, Jim Tarman, Fran Fisher, John Grant, whomever it happened to be at the time. Right. When I was in school, it was Fran Fisher, Jim Tarman. And you'd listen to the game. Then the next day, we'd go and buy newspapers, Philadelphia Inquirer, Center Daily Times, right? And you'd read the game story. And I'm telling my class this because when they had to do the assignment dealing with covering an event, I said, I don't need you to tell me about the details of the event. Said, I don't need you to tell me that, in the first quarter, Saquon Barkley on a 10-play 72. I already watched the game.
You already watched the game. Absolutely.
Right? He said, and that's why the game story back then, you'd have to read stuff like that because it wasn't on TV. I said, well, now everybody can see it. So newspapers transitioned to sidebar stories and things like that and got away from the game story because they know everybody's been watching. I said, it's the same thing with you guys. Everybody's watching the game. I said, you've got to look at the game. I said, and give me something that makes the game experience better. Pick an angle that you think is important and people should know about. I said, and there may be no angle. There may be no angle. Right? It may be just whatever the basics happen to be. Okay? Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts. No angle.
Yeah.
Right? But it's the story you got to do.
Sure.
Okay? Unless if you wanted to take an angle on the Super Bowl, I said, here's one. I said, here's one for you. I said, the dominance in the trenches by the Eagles on both sides of the ball.
Both sides of the ball.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Or, did not Chiefs made sure Barkley wasn't going to win the game, it didn't matter.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that was the other part of it.
So, I mean, that's, but see, that's how much it has changed. We can see everything now. We can get something instantaneous on our phones. We don't have to wait for tomorrow to read about Darian DeVries being the head coach at Indiana. We can read about it today on our phone. We can read it about it today on our iPad. We don't have to sit there and, so times have changed. Times have changed. So the Chicago Sun-Times took some of it. And Rick Tellender understood diversification in a career a long, long time ago because he's the one that started the Chicago Sports Writers Program. I mean, I'm talking about the TV show, like Daily News Live. Sun-Times was doing that before Daily News Live came along. And Tellender's the one that got it going. So he understood that you had to have multiple outlets in your career to survive in this profession. Well, I mean, but, and he left Sports Illustrated in 96 to take this job. So, I mean, look, he's been there almost 30 years. Right? So he's been there 29 years. So no matter what, it's still difficult to find that out. But that's, again, another major player in print media that is scaling back. So, very interesting.
Yeah, there was obviously there was rumors of a potential buyout initially. I think the last couple of days.
Oh no, they got buyouts,
and then the buyout happened.
Yeah, they all got buyouts.
Yeah, and then 20%.
Yeah.
So it's and when we witnessed this week and a half ago, we've lost a couple friends in radio. And Odyssey went through a lot of buyouts as well.
Yeah. So. But yes, Darian DeVries is the new head coach of Indiana basketball. Malik Reneau and Gabe Cupps have already put their names into the transfer portal. So they're going to be. And Cupps he played 4 games this year. He barely played. Cupps is best known for being on Bronny James' team. And when he played last year at Indiana, and Ace Baldwin was stealing the ball left and right, there was no Bronny James there to bail him out. I would ask you what you thought of last night's movies on TBS, but because, I mean, can't imagine you watching basketball. So.
No, not at all.
By the way, the Dodgers won again today, 6-3. So, and Shohei Ohtani did homer.
Yeah.
So, it's Dodgers are off to a 2-0 start. They are 2 steps closer to being 162-0.
That's right. So they got the Phillies that first full week. So they got.
Oh, good. So that's 3 more wins.
In Philadelphia.
That's 3 more wins. See, I was talking about that with my class today. I was talking about that I rarely, as you know, do hot takes.
Yeah.
I rarely. It's just not my.
Same.
But I did have one yesterday. And again, this is under the category of this is just my opinion. And I'm not saying they really thought this, but if you're the NCAA and you're considering tournament expansion, you need to show the networks that there's value in expansion. So who do you put in a first 4 game if you want to show the value of expansion? North Carolina.
You betcha.
Okay? Why? Simple. There are certain teams and individuals. Now, this time, this is not about individuals.
Right.
But there's certain teams and individuals. Tom Brady, Tiger Woods, LeBron James. Okay? The Dallas Cowboys, the New York Yankees, the Dodgers. Maybe the Montreal Canadiens, maybe not so much of late. The Lakers.
Sure.
You know, the Celtics. UConn women's basketball. Right? Where Kentucky, North Carolina, where they've got a huge following of fans. Huge. National. And then you have a bunch of people out there that's also a gigantic part that wants to see them crash and burn. Well, guess what? The two sides, the ones that love your team and the ones that want to see your team crash and burn, or the individual, LeBron James, I want to see him miss a shot. I want to see Tiger Woods hit one into the woods. I want to see Tom Brady throw 5 interceptions, right? What do they both have in common?
They're watching.
They're both watching. Well, North Carolina had both sides watching last night. Now, they squelched it in about an hour. But something tells me True TV had a pretty good rating to start that game last night. And that's the evidence that you bring to the TV networks to say, hey, we're going to give you some matchups like that in a second first 4. Again, is that a cynical opinion? Yes. Is it a hot take? Yes. Do I rarely do hot takes? Yes. But there's enough cynicism in me to think that.
To me, I think it's true.
To me, if you're going to do this, like they've got Texas tonight. Texas is a national brand. Maybe not in basketball, but it is Texas. It's an SEC school.
Yeah.
At least at this hour. And you're going to have a good crowd. Same thing. It'll be sold out tonight because all the Xavier fans are coming up from Cincinnati for the game. It's not that far from Cincinnati to Dayton at all. So that was just my little who is going to draw a TV rating where the fans are passionate about them nationally and can't wait to see them play, and at the same time are going to draw people that just want to see them fly off the roller coaster into the lake. North Carolina or West Virginia?
Exactly.
It's a fact of life.
Certainly.
I mean, you've never experienced that. You're universally loved.
That's right.
I wouldn't brag about it. Is it really this easy? I mean, except for that Patches the dog incident.
We joked prior to taking the air the "Do you know who I am" card, and the answer you said the joke yes because that they do. That's the reason.
That's the problem.
That's the problem. That's how
Dick Girardi and I do that all the time, right? We'll be waiting in line at some place, and one of us, we'll say, well, Dick will look at me and he'll say, "Don't they know who we are?" And I'll look at him and say, "Yeah, it's one of the problems." Or I'll say, "Don't they know who we are?" You'll say, "That is the problem."
I don't play the "You know who I am" card often, but and then we do.
That's one of the issues. They actually do. Well, we're going to wait longer. All right, so this checkerboard mess.
That is. It's mine too.
We'll see how this plays out. I'll never forget one time. This happened. It's a true story. I'm doing this show. And I talked about, take a long look at teams as to who's really great from the two lines, the 3-point line and the free throw line. That really wins a lot of games. And this woman came up to me, and she said, I listened to your show. I did exactly what you said. I looked at all the teams that were great from the free throw line and the three-point line. And it said, and my bracket died.
I actually had a classmate who knew absolutely, not a classmate, I was long out of school, but I actually knew a coworker that knew absolutely nothing about basketball, took Duke to win it all, took Butler in the championship because their professor's name in college was Butler. Sure, Duke plays Butler in the championship.
There you go. It's like going to the racetrack with somebody who says, those are beautiful silks.
Exactly.
Right?
And they win.
That nag's 20-1. What are you talking about?
It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. That horse has no chance. Come on.
Oh,
I was running in the Alpo Stakes. What are you doing? Right? And crosses the finish line first. You're like, I got all this scientific research that told me that 2 and 8 should win. Nope. The silks are so pretty. The horse flies by. I told you the story about the Kentucky Derby where Dick Winnie's standing on the infield. And he's got it down. He knows, he feels great about his picks. And all of a sudden, he's on the infield, and this horse comes flying by. I mean, flying by, turning into the stretch. Number 21. He's like, 21? Who the heck is 21? Right? Because remember, that was the one where they had to scratch the 20 horse. So Rich Strike, right, was put in the field on the outside as 21. And the sucker won it. I'm telling you, I'm not even sure his own owners bet on him. It's just that he won. You just don't know. It's an animal. He looked like, I'm talking to Dick later. He goes, Steve, I'm standing there. This 21 goes flying by. I'm like, I'm looking around like, who's 21? Said I never heard of the thing. He was just put in the field like that morning or something like that. And he just jogged him out there and he ran and won. He was loose. The horse had no pressure. Even the jockey, they interviewed him. He went, yeah, how about that? That's the same thing with this. Like, who knows?
That's exactly.
I always love these people. There are still 162 perfect brackets remaining going into the Elite Eight. And these people filled out like 1,280 brackets.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. So
goody for you. I'm glad you're doing so well.
Exactly.
All right. Well, this screams like a golf day today.
All right.
It does. It really does. You know, it's going to be 70 degrees today. Get a little bit of rain tomorrow, so gonna go out. You know, those golf balls you gave me with your face on it.
That's right. Just smack them.
I smack it right on the chops every time. I smack it right on the chops. Right. It's probably put 25 extra yards into my game.
Get a louder ovation on the tee off, too.
Come on, belt it. All right, well.